We do our best to bring what we think are some of the most important and interesting stories to you, articles at goodmorningportugal.com on the PT News and Info page, which you can see right there. And if I scroll down, you'll see last week we were all over the Costa's successor and Dougie's love of Portugal. Big year ahead for Portugal there. Sarah from Spartan FX with her views on the new year. And we're starting this news week with some heavyweight stuff. Portugal's foreign nationals double in a decade. I think, Antonio, you were sharing some of the data with us about that yesterday. And I've read these two stories out, and they are part of our Portugal News and Information podcast, which is a separate and new YouTube channel, and a huge risk of the far right in Portugal. Now, you're going to be hearing this sort of thing. I think we're hearing this all over the world, aren't we? Interesting thing about this is it's the president of the parliament saying this. And I think he's doing some of his own political maneuvering by saying some of this. You might want to hear this over or you can read it for yourself at our website, and you can hear on Portugal News and Info on our podcast on Spotify. I read these couple of stories out yesterday. Not as typically not as alarming as they first appear. And what was it Lee said? Good luck with that when it came to the election of next year. So I think quite a lot of cynicism around Portuguese politics. We'll see what happens, won't we, in March of next year. So let's go to the home pages then. We'll start with the Portugal news this morning and see what's being said over there. English-speaking Portuguese news at the Portugal news. We'll look at the resident as well. Let me bring the Portugal news onto the screen. Anything that's caught your eye that you want to share with people this morning, do let us know. It feels like we should bring the phone in back as well. Anything you want to say? We can stick with the Christmas and New Year greetings and hope for the new year. Or anything you want to talk about. Oh, I see one I want to talk about this morning myself. Portuguese wines in global top 12 best. Got to have a look at that this morning. I'm still feeling a little bit like the Aguardente I was partaking in last night with the amazing Austin brothers. Yeah, that's how I feel this morning, folks. Plenty of water and hydration. I'm sure we'll sort that out. Okay, let's have a look at that homepage then of the Portugal news. What do we got? Portugal's 7th. What? For job vacancies? What does that mean? Of the total number of jobs that make up the Portuguese market, less than 2% are currently vacant, is the headline there. Immigrants contribute over 1.6 billion. I think it's worth having a look at that one. We'll come back to that. 19% of properties sold within 7 days. Wow. Yes, talking of migration, it was International Migration Day yesterday, always the 18th of December. So there was some interesting news as a result of that. Porto has announced its Christmas metro times, as well as whilst there are public transport concerns. And FC Porto host the Arsenal up the Gunners on February the 21st. And the sardine quota has been slashed. We might want to have a look at that. If anything takes your fancy that I'm alluding to here, let me know and we'll deeper dive into it. What will petrol prices be next week? Was this like a Mystic Meg fuel column here on the Portugal news? Portuguese wines in global top 12. I want to have a look at that. SEF replacement agency facing a tough 24. That's probably one we could take a look at this morning. The beauty of the Portuguese Silver Coast. I've had a look at that. San Martino is not mentioned in that. Cheek. And a new life in Portugal. Did anyone suggest it was going to be easy? I think that's Dougie with his love letter to Portugal. So let's have a look at we've got the immigrants coming to Portugal, coming over here with their 1.6 billion. Immigrants contributed 1.86 billion euros to social security in 2022, while they only benefited from around 257,000 euros in social benefits. That's amazing, isn't it? That's quite a net difference there. This has created a positive balance in contributions. It certainly has a very positive balance from immigrants of 1,600 million euros last year. According to Publico, immigrants account for 7.5% of the total population, which was the highest figure ever, according to the Migration Observatory responsible for the report. The weight among social security system contributors rose to 13.5%. The most recent report from the Migration Observatory also indicates that the trend of foreigners having a greater ability to contribute than nationals continued in 2022. And in 2022, there were 87 contributors for every 100 residents, while for the Portuguese, there were 48 contributors for every 100. Very interesting. Thank you, Portugal News, for that. No comments. I do like to scroll down to the comments in the Portugal News to see what's being said there as well. Let's go back to that. We've got to talk about SEF, I think, and we'll do that first, and then we'll talk about wine. We might need to. SEF replacement agency facing a tough 2024. Then I will make a podcast of this and stick it up on our YouTube channels and on Spotify. The Agency for Integration, Migrations and Asylum. That is a quiz question that might come up. We've got the Portuguese quiz, the Expats Portugal annual Christmas quiz. Quizmaster Jerry, and I'll be hosting that on Thursday at 7:30. So what does IMA stand for? It stands for the Agency for Integration, Migrations and Asylum, and it will face the biggest test of its existence in 2024. Well, it's only started this year, but it promises to regularize pending cases. That's a very cute way of saying getting stuck into the workload, isn't it? Regularised the pending cases resulting of the merger of part of the functions of the Foreigners and Borders Service, SEF, poem to come from Owen as well, remember, and the High Commission for Migrations. The new agency came into operation at the end of October of this year with great promises that to date have not yet been fulfilled. We'll give them a chance. I mean, that is a lot to ask for, isn't it? To coming into force in October after a very difficult birth, it has to be said. I think they need time, and with change, it gets worse before it gets better, doesn't it? To be fair to them, the end of the government and the scheduling the elections in March has put the commitments of the social executive at risk at the time when every day hundreds of requests for regularization enter a system that still fails to provide a sufficient response. By the end of the year, the executive had promised to resolve the tens of thousands of cases of overdue family reunification requests that are causing complaints, because it is something imposed by law. Portugal is one of the few European countries that allows an irregular immigrant worker to apply for a visa at the national authorities, and these are the cases that are clogging up the system. All you need is an address, tax number, and an employment contract to make the request, regardless of whether you entered as a tourist, a situation that has led to an exponential increase in requests. The new agency, look at this. The new agency inherited 350,000 pending cases. I mean, that is a serious workload. If you think you got a full in tray, just think IMA for a moment. 350,000 pending cases in October, the last time the numbers were released. Possible solutions then to try to resolve the situation. The now outgoing government promised to invest in modernizing the IT system. Now, my immediate response to that is, please don't implement a new IT system as well. Like, go with what you've got. The implementation of IT systems never goes smoothly. And sometimes it doesn't even work at all, does it? Think of the NHS one. It was hugely expensive, and I think it never got implemented properly. And this happens all over the world, I think. So with the portal already open to requests for the granting and renewal of residence permits as part of it, one of the SEF's problems, which was unable to respond to requests and presented several structural problems. You'd think they'd ask some of these digital nomads that are giving visas to come and have a look at the system, wouldn't you? Or develop a new one. In parallel, in the first quarter of 2024, the executive said he would launch an operation in conjunction with municipalities and immigrant support offices with IMA resources in citizen stores to meet pending requests. Well, okay, some good intentions there. Let's see how that pans out in 2024. And with a budget of 81 million euros, the new agency has 740 employees. 740 employees for 350,000 cases. That's just part of it, isn't it? And provides for 190 new hires. And in its statutes, the government states that the governance model now determined implements a paradigm shift in the way public administration relates to foreign citizens, whether upon their entry and stay in the national territory or upon their reception and integration. The new model also aims to combat racism and integrate ethnic groups, improving the quality of public services with efficiency gains and the resources allocated to them, maximizing synergies and enhancing their results. That just sounds like a PR agency. Help them write that. No comments yet there either. Maybe they shut them for that particular one. Let's talk for a moment then about Portuguese wine. Come back to the resident a bit later on. And we've got a poem from Owen and a picture from João de Norte as well. Let's just see what's going on in the comments for a moment before we read this Portuguese wine article here. Portuguese wines in the global top 12 best. Oh, well, I was with of course, with Chinese Terry, whose suggestion for the wine club for January is wines of 2019. So he's right on it there, all over that, or in synergy with this best wine piece here in the Portugal news. Let's just see what you're saying, though, in response to some of those things in the chat. OLP is here. How lovely to see you. And that's great stats from the Portugal news, says Bobby there. And we've got Antonio urging you to hit the like button. That's what happens when you go out on a 6-hour bender. You end up, thank you, Mrs. M, for being here this morning. That I haven't got the before picture, but that is the after picture. It's true. I can't disagree with you right there. Who else has joined us this morning? OLP has. Hello, all my friendly gumpers. Great to see you here, OLP. And immigrants receive 257 million in social benefits in 20. Oh, okay. Okay, so that's Bobby O'Reilly. I thought you said when I was saying it's a really positive benefit, not that positive. They received 257 million in social benefits, not 257,000. I saw that mistake in some papers as well. So interesting, isn't it? Fact check. Gary Austin, I thought I was feeling quite good this morning and escaped any major symptoms from last night until I put my cup in the dishwasher, bent down, and my head fell. Oh dear. And Chinese Terry, I think, is still snoozing. Talking Chinese in his sleep, which he couldn't do when he went to bed, interestingly. Okay, let's have he could talk to Vitor Costa. Portuguese wines then in did someone mention wine this morning? Not too loud in some certain parts of the Gumper community who've been enjoying their Christmas parties this week. Forbes magazine then has chosen the best wines of 2019, and the list has 3 Portuguese wines in the top 12 places. How about that? Let's find out what they are, shall we? Taylor's very old single harvest port, 1968, 305 euros a bottle. The red wines Cartuja Paramanca at 2005 wine, which is 460 euros a bottle, and Casa Farinha Barcavelha, 1999 at a mere 563 euros and 80 cents. That's an odd number, isn't it? It's probably Eva that's done that. Were the wines distinguished by specialist Eustacia Huon? That's got to be a great name for a wine expert, isn't it? What makes a great wine? A great wine consistently over the years? Well, there's nothing better to answer this question than a tasting of Barcavelha, the most famous Portuguese wine. In its last edition, 18,000 bottles were produced, which are currently priced at around 600 euros per unit in Portugal. Whoa, 18,000 of those. Do the math on that. The creator of, am I saying this right as well, Antonio? Barcavelha had the dream of producing great table wine in Douro. And to achieve this dream, he went to France to study and learn from the best. There are 2 references. There are 2 reference red wines of the country. They share a high price, fame, and an exhilarating history. I feel the touch of a PR company again in this article. Portugal produces excellent wines. However, it's always good to know which national specialities are among all those that exist and being recognized abroad. 3 Portuguese wines are on the list of the 15 best wines in the world, a list made by Forbes regarding the best wines of 2019. France has 4 wines in the top 15. So we've got the Scarecrow Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon of 2015 topping that list. And that's 935 euros a bottle and 96 centimos as well. Can you tell me the most expensive bottle of wine you've had? It's not as expensive as the Domaine de la Ramannais Conti Burgundy Côte de Nuit 2000 at nearly $4,000 a bottle. What is the most expensive bottle of wine you've bought? I already splashed out and spent nearly 15 euros the other day. The Domaine de la Ramannais Conti Burgundy Côte de Nuit, isn't that the same wine, but different year? Yes, 2,800. My goodness. And then you've got, yes, Cartuja coming in there and Casa Farinha as well, and Taylor's joining them this year. This lid is led by the North American Scarecrow. In second place was the Gallic wine, and third and last place on the podium goes to Italian Soldera Tuscan Red 2006 at $475 a bottle. As for Portuguese wines, the best ranked is a port wine at 5th there. Taylor's very old single harvest port of 68. There you go. That's well done, Cartuja, Casa Farinha, and Taylor's, of course, very famous Portuguese brand of port, known around the world. A journalist that's always eager to learn about new things with a passion for travel, adventure, and writing about this diverse world of ours. Wisdom begins in wonder. Is that a quote from or about the journalist who wrote that? Who was that? Who put that together for the Portugal News? That would have been Kate Srinarong, who has a name nearly as good as Eustacia Huyn there, over at the Portugal News. Let's read some poetry.